For our next recipe, we have a fruit loaf that I'm sure you will enjoy. It doesn't have any of the regular ingredients in it. Normally we cream the butter and the sugar and we put eggs in, and then we've got lots of fruit, and that's fine. This recipe has fruit and nuts, but it doesn't have any eggs, and it doesn't have any sugar, and it doesn't have any fat either.
So no butter?
No.
How can you make it?
Well, that's what we're going to show you. And we can assure you that it does turn out all right. So let's see how we put it together.
Okay, so we have a mixture here of some fruits.
Yes.
Can you tell us what's in it, please, Sibilla?
Very good. You need to prepare the dried fruit first. And so you need to use 1.5 cups of dates.
Yes.
And I cut them in half. It helps with the cooking process. But also, if there are any stones in there, you know, you don't finish up with stones in your cake.
So you need to remove
Because
them.
even in the stoned dates, you will get a few stones here and there. So cutting them in half, I think, is a safe way to go.
Okay.
So I cut those in half. Then the apricots, I have a pair of kitchen scissors, and you may too, or you can use a knife. If they're small, I just cut them in half, otherwise into 3, so that they're still pieces that you'll be able to see. And then 1/2 cup of crystallized cherries. And you put that together into a little saucepan with some spices like cinnamon and nutmeg, and I just use 1/2 teaspoon of each. I'm not really into strong, spicy flavoured fruit cakes, but you might be, and you can use more if you like. And then just 1 cup of water.
So mix it all together in a saucepan.
Yes.
And then
Add
cook
a cup
it
of
for
water. You cook it for just 5 minutes with
5
the lid on.
minutes.
And
Okay.
you time the 5 minutes from the time that it comes to the boil.
Okay.
Right? And then you take it off the hot plate, and you take the lid off, and you
Yes.
leave it for 30 minutes. And that's really the stage that we are at now. And so at this stage, you put your fruit in a bowl, or if your saucepan is large enough, you can actually leave it in the saucepan, because all you're going to do is add some extra water, add some walnuts, and some wholemeal flour. They're the only ingredients. And so that can be done in the saucepan if you wanted to save washing up.
So this needs to cool down before we can actually mix it all up.
It can still be warm.
Okay.
This is cool now because we've done it a little while ago, but it can be warm. But you do need to wait 30 minutes.
Okay.
So take it off the hot plate, because the hot plate will stay hot, won't it? And if it stays there, some of the moisture is going to be evaporated. Now, there's not a lot of moisture, but you probably see a sticky syrup. Can you see that, Jade?
Yes, I could see it. Very sticky.
Yeah. And that will be just a little more so when it's still warm. Okay. And so that's the fruit that's cooled. Thank you. And into that, we're going to put some water, and it's about 3/4 cup. But the moisture content of flour varies, and also the evaporation varies a little too. So I'm going to show you what the texture should be like.
Okay, that would be excellent.
Okay.
Because I haven't tried this recipe, so I'm looking forward to learning this.
Okay. Well, it's a very easy one. I'm not going to add all of the water because we may not need it all. Hard to take out, you see, but it's easy to add a little extra.
So we've got 3/4 cup of water.
I'll just use the 1/2 cup. And the reason that I put it in first is that it's easier to mix through the fruit. And I'll put the nuts in as well, and then add the flour last. And that's just an easier way of mixing it all together without breaking the fruit. Okay. So now it's a matter of putting in the flour, and it's 1.5 cups of self-raising wholemeal flour. And I just added a little at a time, just sprinkle it across. I haven't sifted the flour. It seems quite okay just to put it in as it is. And so carefully start mixing that through so that the flour will be able to absorb the moisture that's there. Now we certainly need quite a bit more flour because it is very wet, as you can see. So we'll put in a bit more. You need to finish up with a texture that's probably a little bit like a regular fruit cake.
Okay.
Not
So you don't want it too moist.
No.
Or too wet.
No. But also this would be too dry. And you need to remember that it just takes a few minutes of stirring to get all that moisture absorbed by the flour that we've just put in.
Do you think we would need more flour?
Yes, and we also need that bit of water as well.
Okay.
So we're actually using exactly the amounts that we mentioned to you. 3/4 of a cup of water and 1.5 cups of flour. And we use the standard measuring cups, which are 250 ml or grams.
Per cup.
Yeah, and so some people just use a cup out of the cupboard, and I guess that's all right. But we use the standard measuring cups. Now this is just about right. I'd say that little bit of water, Jade, if you could put that in. Yep, just put it all in. Wonderful. Now we're okay. Just mix that through so that you have a soft mixture that's, I think, a little similar to the regular fruit cakes that you would be used to.
It's amazing that we don't need to use egg to actually bind the ingredients.
No, it is amazing. As I said, we're creatures of habit, and we've learned to cook in a certain way, and most people presume that unless you use a lot of butter and eggs and sugar, that you're not going to finish up with a product that's going to be acceptable.
And tasty. And
tasty.
Delicious.
So we're going to put it into the tin.
So we have sprayed this with oil?
We've sprayed it, or you can also put a little bit of baking paper in there.
Yes.
Now this doesn't rise very much, and so you'll find that it's nearly full when we're finished. It doesn't actually rise very much, and that's good to know too. So just beautiful fruit, some wholemeal flour, and some nuts, and some water.
Excellent. That didn't take long to make either.
No. I find that they're the type of recipes that people are looking for. They're the ones I'm looking for too. So just smooth it out. And now for the baking side of it, you put it into the oven at 180 degrees. Have your oven at 180 degrees when you put it in, and you cook it at 180 for 20 minutes. And then you turn it down to 150 and you leave it there until it's cooked, which is about another 30 minutes. Okay. But heat varies in ovens, and so you will need to just test it in your own oven. If you can use a skewer, just put it in the middle and that should come out clean.
So you know that it's cooked.
Yeah, you know that it's cooked. And so the finished product looks like this, and we're now going to also make a berry, it's not a berry sauce, we call it a berry freshener. These are the slices of the cake that we have just made, and I can tell you they are moist and beautiful. They're not dry and cardboardy as some people think that we're going to finish up with because we haven't used the regular ingredients. It is still moist and lovely, and you've just got fruit, nuts and wholemeal flour. And so for people who have diabetes, they're able to enjoy a small amount of this cake. And maybe for special occasions, that can be so, or just a little every now and again. Now, at my home, to serve this, we actually serve it with a blueberry, sort of like a flummery. And I want to show you how very easy that is. Could you get me a spoon, please? Oh no, there's one here. It's all right.
You've got one?
To make the flummery, I use 2 cups of grape juice, and I use 2 tablespoons of corn flour. And I just heat the grape juice.
Okay.
And put the corn flour in and just whisk it with a whisk. And you finish up with sort of almost like a custard. But it is just fruit juice and corn flour, nothing else. No added sugar again. And into this we're going to put some blueberries. So firstly, let me put that in here. We've already made that. I just need to say that when you first start cooking this, and when you've let it simmer for just a few minutes so the flour is cooked, so you don't get that flour taste. Okay. But you'll find that at first it looks very thin, and you think, oh, this is far too thin, I need more corn flour. Well, you'll be able to cut it with a knife if you put more corn flour in. And if you want to make a jelly-like recipe for children with fruit, you can actually put a little extra corn flour just with any type of fruit juice. And so if you had orange juice or pineapple juice and you added mangoes or peaches, you can actually make a jelly without the gelatin and without the extra flavors and sugar and colors that is often used in those type of foods. So
that's an excellent idea. So then we just mix the blueberries.
We're just going to mix the blueberries in.
So this is a frozen blueberries. Can we actually use fresh blueberries
Yes,
as
you
well?
can. Yes. You can use frozen or fresh. And you don't need to just be confined to blueberries. You can have any sort of berries.
Okay. So we can use raspberries or
You can use raspberries, you can use...
strawberries.
And a mixture is very nice. So you mix that together. And the way that I serve it at home is to put a slice of that onto a nice little plate.
Okay. What about I'll get a plate for you?
Thank you. I also need a fork.
Here
please.
we go.
Yes. Nice to get some new ideas, isn't it? And so we'll take a piece of this, and you may have 2 pieces if you like. You can warm this up. You can put it in the microwave and warm it if you want to serve it as a warm dessert. But for a cold dessert, you just put some of this over the top. More berries. And to top it off, we often put a little yogurt on top of that. And I can tell you, that is very nice and very healthy.